Ushiromiya Kinzo, the aged family head of the Ushiromiya head family. This man could be seen in his study. The clock had already passed noon, but he didn't even attempt to rise from his seat. With his spectacles on, he built up a growing pile of books with elaborate bindings, which he then read intently. You couldn't really say he was having too much fun to stop. Rather, he filled the room with a sense of impatience, or perhaps a sense of impending danger, though every second wasted was a tragedy. In this sealed room, a dense dust danced through the air, which was thick with the stench of chemicals that exuded a mix of suspicious odors. Those odors were somewhat sweet and heavy. If anyone with a normal nose came in here, the first thing they'd do would be to open a window and ventilate this room. Hello, Half Narrow. Yes, Ushiromiya Funzo, for sure. The knocking against the study door had been going on for a while. Voice calling father sometimes mingled with the knocks. As Kinzo heaved a sigh, he snapped shut the old book in his hands and slammed it on the table. Then he yelled at Kraus, who was still knocking on the door. Silence! Enough with that racket, you fool! Who told you the door would be open if you but knocked? I'll crucify the imbecile. Do you wish to suffer the same fate? Father, this is the day of the family conference, which happens only once a year, is it not? Everyone's gathered down below. Please come out. Kraus called out to his father through the door. Kinzo always shut himself up in the study, hating it when nearly anyone, even his family, entered the room. For that reason, Kraus had no choice but to call to him from the corridor like this. Molest me not. Just who is this everyone of which you speak? Do you mean the fools trying to drag me out of here? Then kill them all. Tear them apart, use their bodies for firewood, and feed them into the witch's hearth. Put a pot in that hearth to boil the wormwood. Force the imbeciles who dare try to lure me out of here to drink the broth of the apocalypse. I will soak their dregs in liquor. Ah, where's Genji? Call for Genji. Have my demonic absinthe prepared. The whispering of the green fairy reaches me no longer. Ah, where's Genji? Bring him here! I feel like that's a soliloquy or something that needs to be used in an audition somewhere. Hello, Violet. How are you doing? On the other side of the door, Cross, Nanjo, and Genji kept waiting for the master of the house, who stubbornly refused to come out. Humph. Looks like he hates me to the core. My voice doesn't reach him anymore. Kraus shrugged as though saying it's no use and smiled bitterly. From the beginning, he hadn't really expected his father to respond to his calls. However, since it was the duty of the eldest son, he had tried as a formality. Kinzo-san, your sons, daughters, and grandchildren have come to see you, have they not? Could you just let them see your face, if only for a short while? Shut up! Be silent! You dare to admonish me, Nanjo? I never told anyone to get you. I told them to get Genji. Now call for him immediately. Time is short, and the apostles are already readying their trumpets, so why can't you foolish sheep understand? Kinzo slammed an old heavy book against the table over and over. That racket clearly expressed his great displeasure. Kinzo put his spectacles down and flew up from his chair. He spread his arms wide open as if to sing to a packed opera house, as if appealing to someone, and yelled, Why? Why is there always something in my way? I would throw it all away. I would offer up everything, and there is only one thing I ask in repayment. Oh, Beatrice, if I could see your smile but one more time, I would plunder the smiles of the earth and offer them all up to you. Violet, this is Umineko. It's a visual novel horror story. That is the gist of it, yes. It's an interesting one. I can send you information later. Oh, commanders of the legions of locusts, reap the smiles of the earth. Hack, hack, wheeze, hack, cough. Ah, everything is filthy, everything is irksome. Why must I suffer this impediment on this most precious of days? Cough, cough, hack, wheeze, cough. Cough, cough. Call for Genji. Cough, cough, hack, wheeze. I have no idea what he's yelling about. He's probably lost his mind by now. Cross-san, isn't it a bit harsh to say such a thing of your own father? Thank you, Violet, for complimenting my acting ability. I am clearly the best at this. My father is already dead. There's nothing here but a phantom of what father once was. At any rate, as long as he has no intention of coming out, there's nothing we can do. Kinzo-san. Choking coughs continued to pour from the study. I'm going back downstairs. It would be a waste to let the fruits of Gota's prize cooking talent get any colder. It's one of the few things our relatives can look forward to when they come to visit this house. Humph. Kraus spun around. He looked at his watch, mumbling and acting as though he had wasted time doing something he knew would be in vain. Genji-san, father is calling for you. Keep him company. Certainly. Dr. Nanjo, let's go eat. If we stay here any longer, this sweet stench will ruin our sense of taste. Without waiting for Nanjo, Cross went downstairs. Genji urged Nanjo to go and eat. Nanjo glanced between the study door and Cross's back as the latter disappeared down the stairs, then let out a deep sigh. Sorry, Genji-san, but please allow me to leave this in your hands. Yes, please leave it to me. Do what you can to avoid giving him alcohol. That's a habit that's far too difficult to break. Is Genji not here yet? Who dares keep Genji from coming? Ah, where's Genji? Call for Genji! Please, allow me to handle the situation here. Very well. Forgive me. Nanjo bowed slightly and descended the stairs. Genji watched him leave, then knocked on the study door. Master, it is Genji. Genji? Why have you kept me waiting so long? You're alone, I trust? Correct. I'm alone. Kinzo returned to his seat in the study and pressed an old-fashioned switch on the table. After a small delay, the heavy sound of the door unlocking could be heard. Kinzo was convinced that his family wanted to make a mess of his study. Or perhaps someone had once opened the window for some air and ended up scattering things that, to him, were important research materials, leaving him in a terrible mood. Kinzo had outfitted his room with a formidable lock, preventing anyone from entering without his permission, thereby sealing himself in a jail of his own making. Genji, whom he trusted the most, was relatively free to enter the room, but even that didn't always hold. Kinzo was in a mad mood. Even Genji wouldn't be able to enter. Anyone else would be limited to holding a conversation through the door, unable even to see Kinzo's face. And most of the time, what they got could hardly be called a conversation. However, this didn't trouble the rest of the family much. After all, it just wasn't worth the effort to disturb this aging family head, who was impossible to please and always stayed shut away, immersed in his research. Taking advantage of his refusal to leave his room, they supported his isolation, putting his care entirely into the hands of the servants. Genji, my usual. I'm busy. Yes, sir. Genji headed to a corner of the study. There, suspicious-looking bottles boasting venomous colors were on display. They were actually liquor, but considering the shady atmosphere of this room, one might easily suspect them of being some ghastly poison. Inside the study, the mysterious collection of books gathered by Kinzo had grown into a mountain. They were bizarre, ancient, or banned books, all of them either forbidden, cursed, or sealed. But if you tried to call them old books, Kinzo would fly into a rage and say, "Call them grimoires!" There were also many mysterious objects that presumably held some meaning with regard to black magic, like candles suspiciously melted and molded into strange shapes. The constellations drawn on a certain celestial globe contained quite a few shapes that would draw puzzled looks from anyone familiar with today's night sky. The carelessly strewn about books contained many illustrations, all of them of a religious or mysterious nature, including some depicting demonically grotesque subjects or bizarre diagrams of various magic circles. And above all, a sweet poisonous smell filled the room, profoundly assaulting the eyes and noses of those who entered for the first time. Eventually, it must surely make a person go numb and lose their grip on reality. Inside that study, Genji prepared Kinzo's usual drink with a well-trained hand. No one would even think of drinking such an ominous dark green liquid in that complex and ornate glass unless someone first told them it was alcohol. He poured a little into the glass. Then he placed a cube of sugar in a strangely shaped spoon, poured water from a pitcher over it. That, my friends, is indeed how you prepare absinthe. Strangely, when the transparent water was poured, the dark green liquid turned a cloudy white. That also is very much absinthe. This is very, very accurate. It was a strange optical illusion, as though the water had caused a chemical reaction and made the drink become even more unrecognizable as liquor. Then, Genji added original flavors Kinzo loved, fine-tuning its taste. Yes, habanero, it does make me want to drink. As well, I saw a video on different absinthes and absinthe spoons and pouring the sugar water in and the effect it has, and it's very interesting. I'll try to find that video later and put it in the Discord so you guys can see it. Because it really is fascinating how absinthe works. There was no recipe. Its success was measured only by Kinzo's mood swings when he drank it, and it had taken Genji many decades to learn how to do it right. Genji placed the glass on a tray and walked over to Kinzo. By this time, Kinzo was gazing out the window. Here, master. Thank you. Kinzo had regained his composure and was now unrecognizable as the shouting, screaming, yelling man from a few moments ago. Looking at this man from behind as he tilted his glass and gazed down at the scenery beyond the window, he projected a sense of dignity and intelligence. To allow Kinzo to set his glass down at any time, Genji motionlessly waited behind Kinzo and to his left, as though he were a living sideboard. Then, without averting his eyes from the window, Kinzo held out his glass. Snakebird, that indeed does seem to be a case. That absinthe would make the heart grow stronger. Except in this case, it's slowly killing Kinzo, so you know. Hey. There's only a mouthful remaining. It was not a gesture intended to set it upon the tray, but a motion to hand the glass over to Genji. Drink, my friend. Your words are too kind for me. No need for ceremony between us. Drink, my friend. Thank you. Genji respectfully received the glass and inclined it a little to taste its contents. After that, he gulped it down. I attempted to imitate your concoction, but no matter how I try, I cannot replicate the taste. The way you make it is pure relish. Thank you very much. It's the fruit of your guidance, master. Humph. Kinzo smiled at his loyal subject. He refused to put aside rank even when asked to. However, he was not making fun of him. His smile was relaxed, as though chuckling at a close friend's old, unshakable habit. We have grown old together. I stopped counting the years long ago. It is entirely thanks to you, master, that I have been able to live like this until today. Kinzo gave a faint smile, as if to say he didn't need any flattery. It's bothering me that Kinzo's tie is tucked in like that over the cape. That's... Until now, you have served me exceedingly well. My sons call me eccentric. Servants that were once many have all quit in fear of me. Only you serve me even now. Your words are more than I deserve. My life will not last much longer. My sons are vultures, lazily waiting for my inheritance to fall into their hands. Kraus is a fool who squanders money like water, who throws away 2 gold coins to attain 1. And then he has the gall to claim that he has earned money. Eva is a slave to money, who thinks of me as a mere chicken. When I die, she plans to use my bones to make a broth. Dense Rudolph just wants to fool around with women. Rosa bore the baby of a man who came from nowhere and about whom we know nothing. Jessica is incompetent and uneducated. George has none of what it takes to be a man. Battler is a fool who threw away the honor of the Ushiromiya family. And Maria is obscene to the eye. Why is the Ushiromiya blood so incompetent? Is there no one worthy to inherit the glory I built? Of course, I know. This is part of Beatrice's curse. I know it. You golden witch, are you trying to take revenge against me in this way? If you want to hate me, then do so. If you want to run away, then run. I won't let you go. I won't let you go. Won't let you go. Won't let you go. You belong to me. You must always be in my arms. For all my life. You must stay in my birdcage for all eternity, whispering only to me. Beatrice, why won't you smile back at me? Oh. There's where Maria gets the ooh-oohs. Beatrice. Ooh. After howling, Kinzo choked once again. Genji set the tray and glass down and rubbed his master's back. Genji's facial expression did not change. It was always like this. Off. Thank you, my friend. When his seemingly deranged fit subsided, Kinzo regained his composure once again. It was like seeing two different people, a wild Kinzo and a composed Kinzo, living together inside one body. And so, I have decided. I cannot bear to spend my dimmed remaining years procrastinating like this. If I have one final coin to bet, then I choose to abandon it to the whims of the demon's roulette. Power of magic is always determined by the risk of a gamble. Like visiting a shrine at the hour of the ox in an ancient Japanese sorcery, to nail a cursed doll to a tree. Magical power is produced specifically because of the risk that it will be seen within the 7 days the curse takes. The greater the risk, the stronger the magic power will be. Many miracles that happen in myth might be called the crystallization of shocking magic power, with low probability of occurrence and astronomical risk. That Moses parted the waters of the sea was not a miracle of God. The risk of that desperate situation, cornered by soldiers on the Red Sea shores, weighed upon the scales of slaughter and gave birth to that miraculous magic power. If the same thing occurred again on the same scale, the sea would surely fail to part. After all, Moses was able to magnificently summon a miracle engraved on but one of the countless innumerable results on the roulette of those with power. This is the force that can triumph over astronomical odds. Indeed, good fortune that can grasp miracles is magical power itself. To obtain this mighty power, one must face the risk of despair. Those who possess no magical power may call that desperation rather than a bet. However, people who truly do possess magic power can grasp hold of that miracle and make the enigma come into being. If that power exists within me, I'll seize that miracle. I'll have a chance at making the wish I devoted my life towards come true. Kinzo looked up toward the sky outside the window. He spread his arms as if appealing to someone up in the skies. If only I were capable of grasping that miracle. Oh, Beatrice, Beatrice, show me your lovely smile once more. No matter how much time passes, your face does not vanish. I just want to see your smile, that is all. I'll return everything you granted me. Return all the glory I've gained since that day. I don't need fortune, prestige, or gold. I'll return everything you gave me. I just want to see your smile. I beg you, Beatrice. Ooh. His nonsensical yells became a scream, then a wail. Kinzo slumped to the floor, tearing at it with both hands. Genji had no choice but to wordlessly watch over his master's lamentations. Well, ladies and gentlemen, the family head's health is not the best. He seems extremely sad not to be able to share lunch with you all, now that you have gathered for this event that occurs but once a year. Goda, let the lunch begin. Certainly, I shall begin today's luncheon. Dr. Nanjo, is father's condition really that bad? Yeah, Maria definitely got it from her grandfather. Yes. It's more a problem of mood than a physical condition. And for that, there is no medicine I can prescribe. Hey, are we talking about his mood again? You've got to be kidding me. We took time out of our schedules during this damn busy autumn season just to come and find out how he's doing. Now he's... Then you should be happy, Rudolph. You now know how he's doing. Or, what, would you rather take my place and try to persuade our ill-humored father to come join us? Are you kidding? Rudolph shrugged. Apparently, though Rudolph was willing to be indignant at how self-centered his father was, he wasn't particularly disappointed to be spared a face-to-face meeting. Yes, it's very clear that he does not like his family after all. Very clear. Does it seem like his mood will improve before dinner, Cross Nissan? I have no idea. If you want to know that, you should ask him directly. Although I think his mood will improve faster if we don't bother him. Genji's the only one who can get grandfather out of a funk. It's pretty pathetic, though, making the servants deal with your own parents' bad mood. Jessica, don't speak out of turn. She'd planned for her complaint to be heard only by her cousins, but it had reached even Cross's ears. Scolded, Jessica scowled and turned away, sulking. He's as cranky as they make him sound. He can't be that terribly sick, right? I mean, they're saying he's in a bad mood, not that he's got no energy, which at least proves he's got his wits about him. Because grandfather has especially strong willpower. However, that doesn't necessarily mean his body will be able to keep up. Since last year, they keep saying that he has 3 months left. If the initial diagnosis was correct, grandfather has been prolonging his life by willpower alone. It's right for us to worry about him. Lunch started with the family head seat still empty. The man who should be sitting there had already grown old. The brilliant glory which had rebuilt the Ushiromiya family in the span of a single lifetime was being forgotten. Even though they were beginning the meal with that seat still empty, no one felt that it was odd anymore. The Ushiromiya family conference was held once every year on the first weekend of October. If a normal family were to hold a so-called family conference, you'd expect to be nothing more than a reunion of rarely seen relatives who greet each other around buckets of sushi or something. However, part of the family's great fortune had been lent out to grandfather's children, and no one in this family was considered an adult until they had met with success in business. So this meeting literally was a conference. How much of the fortune was invested? What sort of business was conducted? How much profit was earned? As a result, how much of the fortune borrowed from the main family could be repaid? Or possibly, how much more would be borrowed for future business ventures? What lessons had they learned, and what could they learn from their mistakes? It seemed that topics like these were discussed very seriously in the past. Dad said it was like lying on a bed of nails. Apparently, it used to be a very serious family meeting, where people were bathed in scornful and angry voices. Some people even got slapped despite their age. However, that had become a thing of the past. Now, with everyone pursuing their own business ventures and achieving success, becoming more a normal yearly get-together. Even so, telling grandfather about recent events was extremely stressful. While it was nothing more than a simple get-together for us grandchildren, it was still a real stomachache for our parents. The absence of the man who was the source of all this trouble, regardless of the reason, probably made today's lunch taste much more delicious. The phrase, "while demon is not around, everyone can relax," comes to mind. Anyway, let's introduce Jessica's father, whose face I haven't seen for 6 years. The man sitting to my father's left is his brother, and Jessica's father, Uncle Kraus. This name sure is easy to read. Kraus. Now that we've gotten used to this string of weird names, our perspective is totally skewed. The Kraus doesn't actually seem that bad. It even starts to sound kind of cool. Just like with Aunt Natsuhi, I didn't have many memories of speaking with Uncle Kraus. He had never been one to chat to children, and I felt like he was always talking with the adults, just like Aunt Natsuhi. According to my father's gossip, he was a spiteful and violent man. If what he said is true, Kraus used to be very domineering from his position as the old sibling, was despised by all the other siblings. Though despite that, those siblings all seemed to be chatting happily together. Oh well, even if their relationship was bad when they were children, sometimes when people grow up and live apart from each other, their relationships change. That's probably what this was. After all, they all had children of about the same age. By sharing the family environment, they probably profited by exchanging opinions. Maybe because of that, a short while ago, the circle of parents began to discuss the exams Jessica and I would be taking. Jessica, in order to escape questions about exams from my father on her left, purposely faced right while firing off a rapid series of comments, not giving him any chance to get a word in. Moving on, let's look at the end opposite from Krauss and the others. The very last seat at the table, an old gentleman with a sturdy physique sat facing Kyrie-san. This was my first time meeting him. I had only just been introduced to him, but it seems he's grandfather's personal doctor, and called Nanjo. I had heard he used to own a huge clinic on the nearby island of Nijima, but he turned it over to his son, began living a life of leisure in his old age. He had known grandfather since the very beginning, when the mansion was first constructed on this island, and had built up a relationship over several decades. I thought at first that the two of them might have gotten to know each other through grandfather's suspicious hobbies, but it seems he was actually grandfather's chess partner. See, that kind of hobby seems very like our grandfather, what with his love of all things Western. Nanjo's probably the only person who could enter Rokunjima despite being neither a family member nor a servant. He looked like a calm old gentleman as he listened to the discussion between Kyrie and the other woman sat near them. To him, considering how long he stayed by the side of our short-tempered grandfather, his generous heart was probably nothing to laugh at. Still, even if he was a family doctor, having anyone outside the Ushiromiya family attending the family conference was a little odd. It made me think that grandfather's condition might have worsened so much it'd be a major topic of discussion at today's conference. After all, George said something like that just a second ago. Something about how we've been getting continuous reports since around last year that grandfather didn't have long to live. It's nasty to think about it, but consider how rich grandfather is. At the time of his death, his wealth will suddenly be released, probably along with a fair share of our parents' stomach acid. And it'd lead to ulcers for everyone. After all, this sort of thing just gets messier when there's more wealth to be divided. There's a good chance they'll be talking about stuff like that at the family conference. Still, it's not like it's got anything to do with us kids. Finally, even though he hasn't shown up, let me introduce our grandfather. The person who should be sitting in that incipient chair is Ushiromiya Kinzo. Really sucks. Everyone else in the family has these weird names, but he's got a perfectly normal one himself. If only his name was written Kinzo, but he... Oh, hold up, sorry. If only his name were written Kinzo, but he let us call him Goldsmith or something, I'd totally freak out. As you could probably guess by now, he's a frightening person with an extremely short temper. I'm one of his grandchildren, not a son, and I haven't seen him since elementary school. Thanks to that, I have no memory of being beaten myself, but our parents were apparently raised with an iron fist. That earlier conversation between my dad and Uncle Kraus about who should go convince grandfather to come down seems pretty darn funny once you know their background. You can't really tell grandfather's story without covering that pivotal event back before the Showa era, 1926 to 1989. Until the Meiji and Taisho eras, the Ushiromiya family was great and prosperous. They owned several spinning mills, making them rich enough to just double overlapping every day as money kept rolling in. Incidentally, grandfather was a member of a branch family. Had pretty much nothing to do with the main family. Not only was he way down the list of people who could inherit the headship, but he had hardly any contact with the glamorous main family. However, during the Great Kanto earthquake in the year Taisho 12, or 1923, the mansion owned by the Ushiromiya family in Odawara was flattened. The spinning mills in Tokyo were all burned down in a huge fire. The Ushiromiya family lost most of its wealth and family members in an instant. So once they started trying to figure out who the successor to the Ushiromiya family should be, they apparently found no one remaining except Kinzo and his branch family. Kinzo's later reminiscences, he referred to this as good fortune so great that it overturned fate. With that, grandfather's boring everyday life did a 180. He was entrusted with reviving the dying Ushiromiya family, which had lost nearly all its wealth. However, just because he had been entrusted with this task didn't mean he could accomplish it. Apparently those around him weren't really expecting much. However, this is when Grandfather began displaying his extraordinary talent and good luck. Grandfather used all of the family's remaining wealth, as well as everything from the hair on his head to his toenails, as collateral in order to borrow a massive amount of money. Once he'd built up a gigantic war chest, he immediately invested in businesses. It was like someone tumbling down a hill on a bike without any brakes, then jumping onto a neighborhood bike and then another one, a neighboring bike and then another one. Just like some crazy street performance. I'll bet everyone thought Grandfather had no business ability whatsoever. However, after several miracles and turns of good luck, with coincidences piling up and every chance taken advantage of, he was suddenly in control of powerful connections with occupying forces. At that time, MacArthur and the GHQ were the ultimate authority in Japan. Grandfather, in a twinkle of an eye, began succeeding in business under the protection of the occupying forces, quickly becoming very rich. By this point, it's probably safe to say that information, not luck, saved the day. He must have made some seriously deep connections with the occupying forces. Grandfather knew beforehand about emergency demands that would be made for the Korean War. No, it was more than that. He must have predicted those emergency demands from the very beginning, when he started investing his money. The history books made it sound like all of Japan made a large profit off of the emergency demands during the Korean War. That isn't actually true. Only a very limited number of the super rich played the money game and made an easy profit. Most of the citizens remained poor. In other words, Grandfather was a member of this extremely lucky group of winners. Pretty sure this all happened during the year Showa 25, or 1950 or so. The Great Kanto earthquake happened in Taisho 13, 1924, so that means Grandfather was able to revive the near-dead Ushiromiya family in only about 20 years to a level even higher than it had ever been before. With that, you'd think he'd revive the main family in Odawara, but for some reason he went and did something as crazy as buying an entire small island in the Izu archipelago. Buying an entire island is not something you can ordinarily do today. However, Grandfather was clever. He contacted the GHQ and applied for the establishment of a marine resource base. He acquired this island as a business property, then tossed that project aside and claimed it as his own plot of land. After the war, there were prevention measures against food shortages, and having the sponsorship of the GHQ meant that no one could oppose him. From what I've heard, the Tokyo metropolis of that day offered this land to him practically. Later, Tokyo made difficulties by telling Kinzo to return the land, but the pushy GHQ intervened. Anyway, it seems under the table bribes did their work well. In the end, the city gave up in frustration. Grandfather, with considerable skill and good luck, managed to weather stormy seas of that period, obtaining a vast fortune and his own island. Of course, it probably wasn't all luck. He was so obsessed with all things Western, which helped him cultivate his English skills. He was able to use this to his advantage and sink his teeth into the GHQ. A mansion was built on the island soon after. This mansion, in fact, Grandfather, with his love of Western style, made this once uninhabited island a canvas upon which he could realize his dreams to his heart's content. He now had the Western mansion of his dreams, overflowing with emotion and atmosphere, a beautiful garden featuring all sorts of roses. And he had a private beach where nobody other than himself would ever be permitted to leave a footprint. This would be a dream come true for any boy. After that, he made good use of his huge fortune, becoming a large stockholder in an extremely stable iron and steel industry, was able to live an easy and comfortable life just using the dividends. Well, he's just that incredible. This kind of person usually has the ability to foresee and predict the future, or at least that is how they're portrayed after the fact. But Grandfather denies all of that, repeatedly saying that he was simply blessed with extraordinary luck. Anyway, even a lord like that can't help but grow increasingly eccentric, locked up alone on an island where all his dreams are made real. Everyone knows that he's had a Western obsession from the start, but none of our parents really know when his bizarre black magic hobby began. Did his love of black magic begin way back when he became fascinated with everything Western? But his miraculous stretch of good luck while reviving his family caused him to feel mysterious power in himself. At some point, Grandfather began to make the research of black magic his life's work. He filled his study up with suspicious books, chemicals, and magical items as he became increasingly bizarre. From what I've heard, those around him warmly watched over him, figuring that someone who had achieved success in life had a right to do as he pleased, but there's no way that's true. They were probably just creeped out, thinking, that's disgusting, I don't want to get involved. Anyway, that agitated period was an age of big gambles, with both opportunities and risks. Let's say Grandfather was born in this time period. He would have had no opportunities and would probably have advanced like a chess piece from mandatory education to college at a leisurely pace, never becoming more than an average salaryman. If that happened, he'd probably have sat somewhere, happily talking behind the boss's back. No, not in any fancy dining hall like this, more like at a table in some bar. Then again, I bet this family conference would be a lot more relaxing if that were the case. I need tea. Odd. There's a lot of reading. Okay, that's enough about the old geezer. More importantly, let's talk about this incredible lunch. I'm already convinced by that sashimi salad appetizer. Goda-san's an excellent chef. Plus, these fish were caught in the adjacent seas, weren't they? They're totally different from the sashimi you get at the supermarket. Hey, quit it, Battler. Your upbringing will be exposed. Everyone let out a big laugh. Damn it, you say that even though you love those cheap pubs. I've eaten at many unusual places because of work. This stands right up there with the best of them. I'd be willing to bet Goda-san's used to be pretty well known in those circles. Well, I don't know about the details. The stuff's got complicated at the long-standing hotel he used to work at, what with them opening a new establishment, same name, and breaking into factions or whatever it was. Middle of all that, he was apparently forced to retire. At that time, Mom just happened to be sending out job offers for a servant. As Goda removed the empty plates, he began to recount his own bumpy past without losing his smile. The world is a difficult place. However, thanks to the Madame, I was given a chance to display my skills as a chef once again, this time for the Uchidoriya family. Although I enjoy experiencing the smiles of a larger number of people, I also find it quite entertaining to perform more delicate work that can please the limited number of those who have employed me. All this is thanks to the opportunity given to me by the Madame. Goda-san respectfully bowed his head towards Aunt Natsui. That's because you were the most talented of the applicants. The decision was purely objective, not based on personal feelings, so there's no need to thank me. Dang, why does Aunt Natsui always have to sound so indifferent? If only she spoke with a bit more kindness, she might leave a different impression. Chan and Kumasawa-san entered from the hallway with a serving cart. Please excuse us. Now then, let us move on to today's dessert. Goda-san and the others laid beautifully adorned dessert out in front of us all. Is this true when they say you have another stomach for dessert? I thought I'd already filled up on delicious food, but as soon as I laid eyes on that dessert, my stomach started yelling, "More!" I don't know much about desserts, but this looked really good. White pudding-like substance was garnished with 2 shades of red sauce. Having trouble keeping these aunts and uncles straight. I will try to do a recap in a hot minute. An elegant rose petals adorn the dish. Normally, during a high-class meal like this, you're supposed to wait for the chef to extol the virtues of this particular meal before eating. However, Maria was completely indifferent to strict rules like that, so she got excited by this beautiful and delicious-looking dessert, jumping into the fray as soon as it was placed before her. Aunt Rosa scolded her, calling it bad manners, but George responded by saying, now, it's okay. Ooh? This part's sour! This part's sour! Battler, this one's no good! Ooh! Maria exclaimed as she sampled the 2 colored sauces. What, some are good and some bad? Okay, I'll give it a go. Apparently one sauce was sweet and the other sour. Despite it being bad manners, I also stuck my little finger in and licked it. Whoa, one of the sauces was sour enough to make you pucker up. If it were yellow, I would suspected lemon. but I couldn't guess what kind of sourness would be red. I decided to ask Shannon, who was putting away the serving cart behind us. Shannon-chan, what kind of sauce is this sour stuff? Shannon-chan hesitated. Maybe her job was just to set the table, so she doesn't really know. Still, even considering that, she seems pretty stressed. Maybe I shouldn't have asked. Or did they use some ingredient that we'd be better off not knowing about? Aunt Natsui made a gesture that seemed to indicate an oncoming headache. Kumasawa-san, who was setting the table at the opposite seat, began to chuckle. What do you think we made it out of? Oh, it'll shock you. Huh? I don't have a clue. Wait a second, Kumasawa-san, that last's pretty creepy. So what is it? Don't tell anyone, okay? Listen very carefully. Kumasawa-san leaned across from the other side of the table. I leaned forward myself when she asked. Their interest caught. Jessica, George, Aniki, and of course Maria also put their ears close. Ooh. What? What? Quickly! Quickly! See, the sour part is made from... juice squeezed from a mackerel. Oh, what? Mackerel? That's crazy, we all thought, horrified. Only Maria accepted it, nodding sagely. Ooh? Mackerels are sour. This is what comes out when you squeeze them. Ah! Maria started clamoring that mackerel were sour. The adults were unable to contain their laughter. Only Aunt Rosa, her face red, whispered to Maria that mackerel is sour only once prepared as shimesawa. Ah, now I totally remember. Kumasawa-san was always like this, wasn't she? I think I remember her tricking me too in all sorts of ways when I was young. The most lethal has got to be that one. Those flimsy black things in Chinese dishes. They're hikurage mushrooms. She told me they were penguin meat, and I went all around school like a smartass telling everyone, didn't I? Kumasawa-chan, you sure haven't changed. You know Maria's gonna believe it now, right? Oh, it's just a joke. Now Goto-san's going to tell us what the sauce really is, won't he? Goto looked a little put out about his masterpiece being laughed at for such a bizarre reason. But after clearing his throat once, he introduced the dessert to us. Well then, allow me to introduce our dessert. After seeing how much you all enjoyed the rose garden earlier today, I finished this panna cotta in a rose garden style. The rose petals scattered across were selected just now from that very rose garden. The sauce is a combination of two reds, strawberry and rose hips. Please enjoy this mixture of the strawberry sweetness and the rose hip sourness. Furthermore, the rose petals are merely decorative, so please avoid them while you eat. With that said, please enjoy. Whoa, man, I almost want to applaud before eating. Just like with medicine, reading the detailed description first seems to make it work a whole lot better. As Goto-san elaborated on the details of this dessert, it started to feel even more appetizing. Seriously, should you call him subtle or just talented? The dessert was probably planned from the beginning, but taking the hint when we all stopped in the front of the rose garden earlier today, he displayed an incredible and timely awareness by just adding a few rose petals from that garden. Its combination of sweet and sour was also exquisite. If it was just sweet, you'd just get used to it and bored halfway through. But if you reached the sour sauce at that point, you'd get a really vivid taste. Then, once you returned to the sweet sauce, all the sourness in your mouth would be replaced with enjoyable sweetness. I'm sure everyone else felt the same way. Every time Goto-san passed by one of our seats, someone praised the taste and his presentation. How is it, madame? Splendid, as always. It is worthy of entertaining our guests. I am most grateful for your words. Madame, did you know? I have heard that rosehip has the ability to cure headaches. I thought that you in particular would appreciate it, so I had it specially prepared. That's so. Thank you. I get the feeling she gets a headache just from people saying. Yes. Lengthy descriptions of food. Lengthy descriptions of everything, honestly. The author has a lot of descriptions included in this. Yes, just like in the Long Dark, it's a painkiller. But I feel like Natsui's already tried everything for her headache. See, didn't I tell you, Natsui-ne-san? Rosehip is great for headaches. So it seems. I hope it actually helps. Ha! Goto-san, I love ya. Hey, later on, why don't you tell me how they treat you? Or if you can't, just let me know what sort of salary you'd like. Having your talent confined to the small island is sacrilege to humanity's cooking culture. What do you think about working your craft in my company and delighting all our customers? Hideyoshi-san, are you trying to steal away our Gouda? No, that won't do it all. We'd better start treating Gouda better or he'll get snatched up. Yes, you really should. If you don't, someone's gonna grab him, and you'll be stuck with 3 meals of Kumasawa-style mackerel cooking a day, won't you? Oh, that's harsh. It seems someone's holding a grudge against me. Ha! Everyone let out a huge laugh. According to Jessica, Kumasawa-san's mackerel jokes were a running gag that our parents had long since gotten used to. Kumasawa-san often claimed that mackerels had precious nutritional value, which could slow aging, make people smarter, and more. Supposedly, while it couldn't stop the outward signs of aging, it helped prevent it on the inside. Since she was still spirited enough to tell these kinds of jokes at her age, there must be something to that theory. Well, in that case, if you'll excuse me, prepare yourself for tonight's dinner. I'll be cooking plenty of mackerel dishes for you all, so you better look forward to it. I sure will. Can't wait to get all puckered up from tonight's shimasaba. That sounds wonderful. Wonder if they'll be serving any good Japanese sake. Oh, we certainly will. Haven't you heard of Rokenjima's famous mackerel soju? Ah! My gosh. Kumasawa-san, together with Shannon-chan, bowed and pushed the serving cart away. It was pretty funny to watch Goto-san, who looked like his show had totally been stolen, explain in a serious voice that we would be having calf steak for dinner. Kumasawa-san, thanks for doing that back there. As she pushed the serving cart, Shannon bowed her head very deeply. Oh, I haven't done anything that requires thanks. Kumasawa may have played dumb, but she had obviously understood and saved Shannon in the nick of time. Back when Battler had asked about dessert, Shannon had unfortunately hesitated. There may have been several ways to dodge the question, but all of them would have required some quick wits. Shannon, who hesitated when hard-pressed for a response, was already suffering because of the small weakness. If only Shannon had a little of the craftiness needed to cleverly shake off a mistake like Gota, her life would have been a little easier. The fact that she could perform other tasks flawlessly made this weakness even more unfortunate. However, there were some who understood Shannon's honest nature, her inability to gloss over a mistake and draw attention away from it. That was why Kumasawa had smoothly come to her rescue. I just heard from Genji-san that there will be a big change in afternoon shifts. I believe you were given a break until this evening. Oh, I'm jealous. Huh? Oh, sorry, I haven't checked the shift chart yet. Ah, yes. I was thinking I might start cooking some mackerel in the oven. If you don't mind, I would be happy if you would help out a bit before your break. Yes. I would be delighted to help. Shannon, Kumasawa was like a mother among the servants. The dining hall needed to be cleaned up, so we were chased out. Instead, tea was being served in the parlor. Apparently, they'd prepared the black tea that Aunt Rosa had brought for Aunt Natsui. Maria said she also wanted to have some black tea, but my old bastard said she couldn't and told us children to go play outside. Battler-kun, why don't we all go for a walk outside? Go ahead and take a look at the roses or something. But keep a close eye on the weather. The sky's still clear, but the weather report kept talking about rain. Ooh, I want to go to the beach! The beach! Oh, that sounds wonderful. Playing on a sandy beach isn't something you get to do often, is it? Ah, good point. Okay, let's all go to the beach then. Ooh, let's go, let's go! Maria, be careful not to get your clothes wet. Or your shoes. Ooh, won't get wet. That obedience is so cute. Battler-kun, make sure you keep an eye out for Maria-chan, okay? Sure, leave it to me. Hey, you're pretty obedient and cute yourself listening to Kyrie like that. Why don't you also listen to me obediently for a change? Ha! Hell no. Let's go, everyone. Come on. Children flew out of the parlor. They were replaced by Genji, who pushed the serving cart in and prepared to serve the tea. The parlor was filled with a sublime aroma, which delighted everyone while they waited to sate their thirst. Ha! Rudolph's family certainly seems close. It's a wonderful thing. Put it, we're no match for your family, Aniki. That's true. You've raised Jessica-chan to be so adorable. I'm imagining that's yet another fruit of your talents at education and training, Natsui-san. Thank you. Natsui answered coldly. The conversation broke off then, and the parlor fell silent. Maybe Hideyoshi couldn't bear the silence, because he broke it himself with an exaggerated gesture. Still, they sure do grow fast. I thought they'd be kids forever, but they start getting huge all of a sudden, and then they're adults like us. Battler-kun looks like a completely different person now. His body has grown much bigger, but he's still just a kid. Though you could say the same about my husband. Wonder where the border between child and adult is. I still don't feel as though I've grown up. Humph, isn't that pitiful? That's not something the mother of a child should say. Wow. That's right. We're not children anymore. We're all adults now. So I wish we could talk together on an intellectual level, rather than an emotional one. Eva smiled with sharp sarcasm. Everyone's get more tense. Felt as though the pleasant tea aroma had been tossed out the window. It's long ago, we've always endeavored to engage in intellectual conversations. Seems your sarcasm occasionally misses its mark. Just as it always has. Oh? What is it you've always endeavored to do? My. I wish I could wrap those words up and send them to this room a few decades ago. Right, Rosa? Rosa gave a vague smile. She knew that, whether she agreed or disagreed, she'd earned the displeasure of one of her siblings. It was a bit worldly wisdom that had been essential for someone growing up as the youngest sibling. Put it, Aniki. We'd better get started on our main topic while the brats aren't around. Let's make that our intellectual discussion. Rudolph glanced over the faces of all present. Some let out a slight sigh. Some let out a small look of resignation across their face. They were approaching their unavoidable true agenda. Last year, his life expectancy was estimated at about 3 months, which I guess means he's got negative 9 months left now. Do we take that to mean it might suddenly happen at any time? Family Head is still alive and well. The fact that you'd bring up such an inappropriate topic under the light of day makes me doubt your sanity, Rudolph-san. Still, Natsui-san. This is the sort of thing you can't put off until after something happens. He's still healthy now, which makes this the perfect time to talk about this, while we've still got time to plan. It's just a bit of financial etiquette, you might say. Seems father is the focus of everyone's concern. Dr. Nanjo, could we hear the details from you? That appears to be what everyone else is waiting for, after all. Cough, hack, wheeze, cough, cough, hack, wheeze. Okay, maybe not. Nanjo, who had been standing by the window, staring out at the rose garden, let out a single cough. Oops, I overdid it. When he realized that he was being called. Dr. Nanjo, how is father's condition? Well, to begin, allow me to start with a revision, since my estimate last year that he had only 3 months left was not borne out. No need to explain. You're saying that measuring remaining life is only a prediction, not a promise, right? That is correct. Because of that, while I will accept everyone's repeated questions, I can by no means confirm that when he will pass away. Human's life is supported by the body and their mind. If the body is weak, the situation becomes more dangerous, but if the mind is strong enough to compensate for that weakness, the effects of one's condition can sometimes remain in a subdued state. So you're saying that even if his body is weak, his mind is still firm and spirited. Kyrie, sorry, but please stay quiet for a bit. I'm sorry. That is correct. Enzo-san's body is being overwhelmed by the demon of ill health. This will hold especially true as long as he continues to partake of such strong alcohol. So he's in a crisis now because he drinks. Maybe he's lived this long because he drinks. There's Dad for you, the heavy drinker. Well then, Doctor, I know you can't give anything more than a prediction, but what do you think about Father's chances of living until this day next year? That's quite a rude question to ask about the family head. Natsui jumped on Eva, not even bothering to hide her astonished expression. Eva stared back daringly. Hideyoshi realized what was going on and tried to smooth things over with a forced smile. Ah, Natsui, forgive her. Eva, choose your words a bit more carefully, okay? I'm sorry. I was just so concerned about Father's condition. That's so. I hadn't realized. Dr. Nanjo, please tell us. For the sake of the beautiful love of a daughter worried about her father's lifespan. Kraus laughed sarcastically, and Eva, smiling sweetly, returned an identical chuckle. You ask whether he will still be healthy next year. But as a doctor, it's very hard to say. Because while I do think this lull in his condition will continue for a while, he suffers some kind of fit, there may be nothing we can do. After all, Rokonjima is a solitary island. It's not as though an ambulance could quickly jump in to save him. Normally, I would want to have him placed in a large hospital on the mainland, but Father stated that he does not want his noble research interrupted. Seems he holds a grudge over the way we tried to force him out last year. Apparently, he strongly suspects that he'll be shut away in some hospital if he goes outside. That's how things are now. Dr. Nanjo been examining him? Father trusts Dr. Nanjo. Seems he can be examined when in one of his better moods. I can examine his condition, but if I try to recommend medicine or hospitalization, he refuses to listen. I've really only been able to look. It's true some people hate doctors. Still, what a hassle. Nanjo sighed deeply. The purpose of an examination is to determine what medical treatment would be appropriate. Receiving an examination and then not following the advice given makes the whole process. So to sum it up, he's still expected to live 3 months. There's no way to guess how long he'll continue to live while still on the verge of death. Rudolph-san, couldn't you be a little more discreet with your words? Ah, sorry. I've always talked this way. Give me a break. I understand how Dr. Nanjo sees it. What about you, Krasny-san? To be perfectly honest, I have to disagree with Dr. Nanjo. I find it truly difficult to think of Father as a person so sick he has only 3 months to live. His yell is as healthy as ever, and I still get chills at the thought of his fist raining down on me. Pushing the care of your father solely on the shoulders of the eldest sibling is far from fair. Ha! In the next world, get born after me. Okay, let's get back on track. So in the opinion of our impartial and neutral doctor, it wouldn't be odd for him to go at any time. No offense to you, Aniki, but I'd rather trust the opinion of an expert in it. Which means it's definitely not too early to start talking about Dad's assets. Father's personal funds probably reach as high as several billion yen, right? Several 10 billion yen, right? But it's not as though that's all neatly gathered as ready cash. It's not as simple as simply cutting a birthday cake with a knife. That's an interesting way to put it. That's right, you sometimes get strawberries or chocolates on top of the cake, making it hard to cleanly cut it into... Given that, don't you think it's important to discuss beforehand how best to stick the knife in? Wow. That's an image. Cannot understand how you all can openly discuss this, so the family head is dead, even though he's still alive. Come now, don't you see how important this is? After all, when the time comes, the inheritance of his fortune must be carried out immediately, right? Moreover, the glorious Ushiromiya house's wealth is vast. Don't you understand that careful discussion is necessary beforehand? Huge difference between this family's resources and your family's wealth. How rude. My birth family has nothing to do with this. Natsui responded indignantly, though in a low voice, and the already dark atmosphere grew even more hostile. Give it a rest, Eva. Natsui-san, forgive us. Pardon her rudeness. Hideyoshi tried to smooth things over by glancing at both with a forced smile, but it only resulted in making the hostility between Eva and Natsui even more intense. Seems I'll just get in the way if I stay any longer. Please excuse me. Nanjo rose from his seat and exited the parlor. To an outsider, it may have seemed like a normal act of courtesy, but his back was watched by several glances envious of his ability to escape. After the doctor had exited and his footsteps had disappeared into the distance, Cross recrossed his leg. In other words, this is what you all would like to say. Father's remaining life is short. You want to quickly enter into a practical conference concerning the distribution of the inheritance. Why are you so eager, I wonder? Certainly, as you say, estimating and distributing the Ushinomiya family's wealth is no simple task. In that case, shouldn't we make careful and deliberate calculations? It seems to me that you are all impatient to split up the cake tonight. Is that true, Rosa? What reason is there to be so hasty? We aren't being hasty. However, we need to have an agreement between the siblings. It doesn't matter when we do that, but if the day father's condition worsens is approaching, discussing the matter beforehand hardly seems hasty to me. Rosa shot a glance at Eva and Rudolph. As the youngest sibling in the family, it was hard for her to be cross-examined by the eldest. Oh? Is that your true opinion? I didn't expect that the most honest and pure-hearted of the siblings would say something like that. I wonder if those two still told you to say it. Put it, Aniki. Rosa's one of Dad's kids, too. He got as much right to his inheritance as the rest of us. It's only natural that she'd be interested. After all, Dad'll definitely die. That's not something that'll happen in the distant future. On the contrary, Aniki, you're way too relaxed. It almost seems like you'd like nothing better than to turn the discussion away from the inheritance. What do you mean by that? Are you trying to accuse my husband of something? Calm down, Natsui-san. Listen to what we have to say. Nii-san, I hear the times have been extremely good lately. Yes, since last year, we've been in an unprecedented boom. The yen keeps on rising. It seems that it's no longer a dream that the dollar will reach 100 yen. Also, the ruling party says it'll establish a health resort maintenance law by next year. At this moment, resort development companies across Japan are running about trying to gather as much funding as they can. They certainly seem to know a lot about it. Japan is about to experience an unprecedented boom. It'll be a repeat of the Korean War ends, the time during which Father revived the Ushinomiya family. The people of Japan have been working like mad, achieving vast economic growth, becoming the most well-off people in the world, reaching the height of our prosperity. We've reached an era where private spending is vast, which means easy money for institutions that can capitalize on that fact. The three kinds of electrical appliances no longer represent the people's needs. Never heard of that before. People need ski resorts, golf courses, public pools, resort hotels, and theme parks. We've gone to Disneyland, which opened just a few years ago. What an excellent theme park. Yes, Disneyland. I've been to Disneyland. It's lovely. A place where even an adult can be a kid and have fun with his family. No longer do we count our sole virtue to be selfless devotion while failing to care for our family. Sorry, I'm still laughing over Disneyland. We have become the most prosperous people in the world, and now we can finally enjoy the benefits. Yes, WcDonald's. WcDonald's is definitely an important aspect of this world. Carl-san, your foresight's nothing to sneeze at. When I heard that sort of thing several years ago, I thought it was crazy. But when I heard about the G5 Nations Plaza Accord, that all changed. The yen shot up, and I'll bet the price of land skyrockets soon, too. It won't be long before Japan becomes the economic center of the world. We've got a great sense of direction the world's moving, Cross-san. At least there can be no debate about that. I feel the same as Hideyoshi-san. Aniki, you can read into the next decade of history. I'll bet you got that keen sense from Dad, and it's incredible. However, unlike Dad, the timing of your predictions has always been a bit off sometimes, right? Nii-san, you've been starting resort projects everywhere, convinced that Japan will soon see a boom, but almost all of them continue to fail. While I'm sure that the era you predicted will soon arrive, it seems you misread the timing of that boom. You were too early. You then panicked and tried to sell everything off, which only opened the wound even further. If your nose was really so reliable, then there should be no reason for you to sell off your property. Is this proof that you mistrust your own ability? How rude. Are you trying to insult my husband? Natsui's forehead creased as she rose from the sofa. Eva, paying this no heed, stared at Krauss with a confident smile. In WcDonald's, McRonald's, and Mitch Ronald's. Oh, sorry. Kraus, who also maintained his confident appearance, told Natsui to sit down. Please stop, Natsui. You have always been incapable of talking any other way. Calm down a little, or your headache will get worse. There's proof of your lack of talent right next to us. After all, Nissan, weren't you all excited about turning this island into a resort? You built a wonderful resort hotel and beautifully maintained the garden. I'm just an amateur and don't pretend to understand, but you must have used a significant amount of money for that, right? And what is that to you? My husband's business is none of yours. Actually, that's not true, Natsui-san. Okajima doesn't belong to Anarchy. It belongs to Dad. Of course, the hotel does belong to Anarchy, right? In fact, we'd be more than willing to pay lodging fees for tonight. What do you think, Rosa? Well, what I have on hand will suffice. If I can make it into a resort, this island's financial worth will rise. It's true that expenses have piled up, but we can expect a large investment in the future, or a large harvest in the future. When that happens, all of you stand to profit as well, do you not? I understand that. The value of this island rises, that'll increase our portions when we distribute the inheritance. Of course, I won't ask you to divide the island and the mansion into 4 parts. We can just resolve the matter with money equal to the value of the property. If you understand that much, what about my business makes you so dissatisfied? We aren't dissatisfied, we're uneasy. In the first place, Anarchy, when do you plan to open that hotel? Left this way, you won't get anything out of it except our grubby handprints, right? That's right. It's an important tool for your business, isn't it? Surely you can't keep it locked up till the moment you open it. Buildings go bad if you don't use them, and air them out every once in a while. Even so, it's a bit extravagant for a guest house that we only use once a year. Right, Rosa? That's right. Considering how wonderful it is, I'm sure it will become quite popular once you open it. Oh, so the hotel you keep talking about is the guest house. Splendid. Just as Rosa said, if you were to open it, I'm sure it would become popular. The lodging they had been guided to wasn't originally intended to serve as a guest house. It was originally constructed as a resort hotel. However, even though it was built 2 years previously, there was still absolutely no prospect of it opening. Nissan, it's just like all of your enterprises. Your attention and planning are both fabulous. Then it always becomes unmaintainable partway through, and it ends before you have a chance to earn any profit. You were brilliant when you saw that using this island only as a place to live was a waste. I think it was a pretty good plan to turn it into a resort that could use the prospect of marine sports, fishing, honeymoons, and the like to attract customers. If I were the oldest son, I'd have strained my brain looking for a way to make a profit off the island. But 2 full years have passed since you finished building, right? After 2 years, you still haven't had the opportunity to open it. Where's the managing company you entrusted it to? Impertinence! That's not my husband's fault. There has just been some trouble with the company that my husband contracted with. No matter how you look at it, we're the victims here. And yet, rumors we've heard about this company you hired haven't been good at all. Let's be clear about this, dear. Did you really think we wouldn't hear about how lack of payment, embezzling, and other issues led to the project disintegrating mid-flight? We even have evidence. I don't know what kind of evidence you think you found, but it's all baseless. As new members in the tourism industry, it is necessary for us to lay the groundwork with various people. It is also important to investigate the trustworthiness of our partners. It has merely taken us some time to meet that goal. I admit that in my rashness, the hotel was completed too early. However, it's not as though we're paying maintenance costs. It's a foundation that will eventually become immensely significant. Liar. But you want to liquidate it, but can't. After all, there's no reason for anyone to buy such an extravagant hotel on an isolated, empty island without any established sightseeing routes. Anyway, what about all the loans you made for this project? Even if you aren't incurring maintenance costs, the borrowed money that you can't, borrowed money that you can't return just keeps growing. Sorry, Krasny-san, but I've investigated the development plan for this island a bit. To be honest, I haven't heard anything good either. Hideyoshi-san, I can see how you might be left with that impression by looking only at the current financial situation. However, this is a forward-looking investment. I have no choice but to admit that my prediction was mistaken, but up until now, several liabilities have been created. For the times have finally caught up with me. I will soon regain everything I have lost to this point. No, actually, all of the investments I have made up until now will finally return to my possession. That's right, just like throwing away a small fry to catch a salmon, it will come back even bigger than before. I'll accept that. Resort business will probably see an unprecedented boom before long, though I don't know if it'll be enough to cover all your debt. However, Cross-Nissan, after all your failures in the past, who exactly do you expect to provide you with funding? And this isn't some small amount we're talking about. You'll need enough funding to fill the massive hole you dug. What are you trying to say, Hideyoshi-san? Natsui-san, please don't get angry. We looked into this too. We checked to see who might have provided Cross-Nissan with enough financing to support his recent large-scale projects, despite his string of failures. We discovered that no such backer exists. The iron rule of the money roulette is that you bet against the loser. Aniki, you're a fairly well-known loser in this field. It's true that prosperous times are about to come, but when we looked for people who considered that enough to overlook your string of failures, and also had enough for the investment, we found no candidates. So, big question now, where you got that money from? Oh, now isn't this intriguing? And? Dear, how long do you plan to let these ridiculous remarks stand? Down, Natsui-san. Cut to the point. Aniki, you've been diverting Dad's private funds for your own business. That's pretty much no room for doubt. If you think we've made some kind of mistake, please feel free to explain. Rudolph, don't call it diverting funds. This is embezzlement, plain and simple. A huge crime that can be criminally prosecuted. This sort of rudeness cannot be tolerated. How can you face a successor to the Ushinomiya head family and level these absurd accusations? They aren't absurd, they're right on the mark. I'm sure he'd like to somehow make his business succeed and recover his losses, but his debt keeps getting bigger. He's just trying to cover up the failure of one gamble by making an even bigger one. Only natural that he'd try to grab any source of funding close at hand. To be frank, Nissan, what you're doing is embezzlement. You're betraying father. You know that we'll have the court settle this after it's over, right? You think that kind of person has any right to call themselves the successor to the Ushinomiya head family? Of all the... You dare claim he has betrayed the family head? You no longer have the right to straddle the threshold of the glorious Ushinomiya family. Leave this place at once. Now. Get out. Natsui, who'd already reached the limits of her anger, shouted in Eva at rage. She then pointed alternately at Eva and the hallway, demanding that she leave. Eva took out a folding fan and fanned herself with it, glaring maliciously at Natsui as though silently daring her to repeat what she said. However, her mouth was still smiling, curved in the shape of a crescent moon. In that unpleasant silence, Rosa gulped.